Hello, hello, Taylor Ellwood here at Magical Experiments, and tonight we are going to be talking about the topic of applying mundane actions to magical workings. This was a request on from one of the people in the Magical Experiments Facebook group, and so thank you very much for that request. It's actually a favorite topic of mine, and something I'm going to be talking a bit about in the one of the books I'm writing right now, which is a book on how to troubleshoot magic. Yep, I know. I just came out with a new book, which you guys will see soon enough, hopefully. But I'm already working on the next one. Yeah, there is no rest for the writer. So we look at magical workings, you know, amazing things. But one of the things that I find that a lot of people leave out of their magical workings is a way to apply mundane activities to fuel those magical workings and really to make the mundane activities into part of the magical workings. And I've never really understood that. I mean, I think, it's kind of this weird disconnect that must go back to Descartes and the Cartesian duality of, trying to separate the spirit from the mundane world, right? Well, why are we relying upon some poor principle of enlightenment that never really worked all that well? Why separate the gross matter from the spiritual world? I don't believe in doing that. I hope that none of you do. And if you do, well, I welcome you to invite yourself to a new perspective, which I'll share here tonight. Really not all that new, but hey, let's do it anyway, right? And that perspective is this: there really is no false division between the mundane and spiritual world. I mean, we live in the spirit world as much as the mundane world all of the time. It's up to us as to whether or not we perceive or experience it or not. And some people do and some people don't. Some people want to close themselves off from it, and that's fine. No judgment here, but we nonetheless live in the spiritual world. And so, our mundane activities in and of themselves have a spiritual quality to them. Let me say, oh my gosh, Taylor, you mean to tell me that when I clean my house, I am somehow being a spiritual being? Well, yes, actually, you are. When you clean your house, you are engaged in a spiritual activity. Have you ever noticed that when you clean your house, that you feel not just a sense of satisfaction over the physical cleanliness of the house, but that perhaps you feel like spiritually you've cleaned the house as well, that you've removed all the gunk and everything else, that the counter, that in cleaning the counter, that you have also in some form or manner not just swept off the physical detritus, but also gotten rid of spiritual gunk as well? I know I do. When I clean my house, I definitely feel like there is a spiritual component to that work. And so when I'm engaged in the mundane activity of cleaning the house, I'm also cleaning the house spiritually. I'm clearing away, whatever doesn't belong there spiritually. Now, realistically, I'm doing this every day when I do my daily work anyway, but I think of cleaning, which, I typically clean my house about every couple weeks. I think of cleaning my house as this spiritual activity nonetheless that kind of just allows me to clear away any spiritual detritus that shouldn't be there. But it also is a way for me to cleanse myself and my soul, right? I'm cleaning myself as well. I'm reflecting on things as I clean. I mean, how many of you have ever washed dishes or cleaned the house or done whatever else because you're in a mood, right? You're upset about something. You had an argument with your significant other, or you had some bad news and you needed some way to work through those emotions and everything else. And so you cleaned. And afterwards you felt better. It didn't necessarily solve the situation, but you felt better. Well, there's a simple reason for that. When we are, in this case, cleaning our house or whatever else, we are using it as a form of internal work. So we're doing some magical work on ourselves as well. And the reason for that is simple, because we associate ourselves in a very real sense with the home we live in. Our home is part of our identity, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I genuinely feel like my home is part of my identity. My car is part of my identity, all this other stuff, not to get uber materialistic here, but seriously, when you're cleaning something, that you associate with on a regular basis, there is that feeling of a spiritual connection with it and with yourself. So, we're working with the macrocosm as well as the microcosm. I'm cleaning my house and I'm cleaning myself. Lo and behold, we are suddenly all beautiful. The house is beautiful and we feel beautiful ourselves. We feel all dolled up because we have cleaned our house and everything looks absolutely fabulous. I know that just sounds like a little ridiculous, but there it is, right? Now, I'm using this example very purposely to get you to really think about the fact that in and of itself, any mundane activity has a spiritual component to it, all right? And you're like, okay, maybe you buy that premise now. All right, Taylor, that's great. It sounds good. What does it all really mean, though? How do we apply this to our magical workings? You're talking about cleaning the house and spiritual cleaning yourself, but I want to apply this to magical work. I want to go and do this amazing ritual and have my mundane actions feed into it. All right, grasshopper, let's get there. So here's the deal. Any magical working can integrate mundane activities into it. In fact, if you've read any of my works, you know that I'm in favor of integrating mundane activities into magical workings. And one of the reasons why is because I believe in the principle of the path of least resistance. You have probability A over here, and you have reality B here. You want to get from reality B to probability A. How do you do that? Okay, you do a magical working. Boom, great. But you know what helps that magical working along is if you grease the tracks a little bit. And how do you do that? You go out there and you do mundane activities that are associated with bringing you from point A to point B, or whatever the whole thing of it is. Like, for example, and I know I use this example a lot, I trot it out all the time, but it's a good one. Getting a job, right? Getting a career. Well, we look at getting a career, we're already engaged in mundane activities. So why wouldn't we take those mundane activities and use them to feed into our career objectives? The way that I liken it is that if I'm going out there and I'm filling out applications and I'm sending out resumes and I'm doing interviews and all that other stuff, I'm already engaged in mundane activities. Why not double dip those mundane activities? Why not take the activity of filling out the application, sending out the resume, going to the interview and doing your best to show up? Why not take all of that and turn it into magical fuel for whatever magical working you're doing that's going to help you get that career? And then let's take it one step further. Let's say you get that job/career and you want to advance. Why not take your everyday activities, your work, your networking with people, all the other things that you do, why not take all of those and turn them into magical fuel that helps you push your career along? I actually do it at the current job that I'm at. I take every single call that I answer, all the notes that I fill out, the articles that I write for the job, every other activity I do, and I use it to feed into the magical working. It's constantly going into the magical working, in this case, of making sure that I have a very serene, peaceful, wonderful job environment, such as it may be, and then I'm able to do what I want to do otherwise. And that at the same time, I'm able to show up and stand out and move ahead, such as it is in that career. It's all about understanding that principle of mundane activity. If I'm already doing these activities and I want to achieve a result that would ideally fall in line with what those activities do, why not take those activities and take the effort and energy and all that involved and push it into the magical working, so that the magical working in and of itself feeds on that momentum, rolls the possibility into reality, because we're already taking the fact that we're doing something and we're turning it into this path of least resistance that generates results for us. Very beautiful, seamless. It just makes everything fall into place. And I'm all about making things fall into place, because when you can make things fall into place with your mundane activities, then it's awesome. Right. So, okay, we see, great, Taylor. I buy that. We get the whole idea of using magic and for careers and all that other stuff. You talk about that a lot, but let's try and use it for another example. Let's use it for something else important. Let's say, for example, you have a creative block. You're an artist or a writer or whatever. I'm a writer and an artist, I should know, or a musician or whatever else, but you're feeling creatively blocked and you decide to apply some magic toward it. How would your mundane activities feed into helping you break through that block, that writer's block, that creator's block, whatever? All right. Well, I'll let you in on my secret for breaking through blocks. Here's the deal. Whenever I feel creatively blocked, I take one of two approaches with my magical work around this. The first approach is I go and I actually I'll create a sigil or whatever else to help me get through the creative block. I don't really even create a sigil, quite honestly, anymore. I have a sigil that I've used from long ago and I still use it. Okay, that's the way my magic works, right? Yeah, you create the working once and then you do it over and over again because it's just easier that way. But you could create a sigil or whatever else. Anyway, I have the sigil from long ago. And what I do is I have this sigil tapped into my video game activity, because you see, every night before I go to bed, I play about an hour to an hour and a half of video games. On the weekends, it's a couple hours because, I don't have to go to work the next day. And the way that I have it set up to work is that this mundane activity of playing video games essentially fuels, charges, feeds the magical sigil. And when I've played the game, it at the same time releases, when I finish playing the game, it releases that energy into my creativity and helps me be creative. I came up with this a long, long time ago when I was in graduate school at the time, trying to get my doctorate. No, I didn't get the doctorate, but this did help my creativity when it came to my writing. I was feeling really blocked at the time. I was working on, I think I was working on either pop culture magic or space-time magic at the time. That tells you how long ago it was. And I was feeling creatively blocked. Could not get that writing to happen. And I wanted it to happen, but it wasn't happening. So what did I do? I created a sigil for the purposes of helping me to unblock my creativity. So that way I could, write. And what I did is I connected the sigil to my video game at the time. I was playing Dynasty Warriors, where, you run around and you're a warrior and you chop up a bunch of other pixels, basically. You're fighting all these peasants and nobles and all this other stuff, trying to win the battle. It's a perfect example of actually fighting fighting that writer's block. And the way that it worked is that I visualized the sigil on the back of the character, and then as I played my game, every single push of the button would feed this sigil. So here I am, and I'm fighting Cao Cao, right? I'm Guan Yu, and I'm fighting Cao Cao, trying to fight those guys and beat them and everything else, playing this game for all my worth because I can't write at the time. And boom, I beat Cao Cao. And all of a sudden, I don't feel like writing anymore. Or not. No, wait a minute. No. Freudian slip there right now. I don't feel like playing video games anymore. All of a sudden, I am inspired and charged, and I want to go write. I spent the rest of that evening writing. I think I wrote about 3 or 4 hours. It was amazing. I created that sigil a long time ago. And then somewhere along the line, I thought to myself, I should really tie what I'm doing back to this sigil every time I feel writer's block. So what I did is I retroactively reached back and connected all of my video game activity to the sigil. And so that sigil is a long-running magical working that is charged and fired pretty much every single frickin' day by yours truly. Now, how's that for tying a mundane activity into magical working and making it work over the long haul? If you've ever wondered why I'm so creative, Well, there's your answer to that, because I found a way to take a mundane activity that I do every day and apply it to a magical working, a one-time magical working that nonetheless is one of the longest magical workings in my life. Charge and fire, charge and fire, charge and fire. I start to feel creatively blocked. I break through it because I've got all that energy of video game playing going in my favor, breaking through that creative block and opening me up to the creative juices so that I can go out there and write my little heart out, or paint, or do whatever else it is I'm doing creatively. Creatively. I got to tell you, that is one of my best magical workings. I sometimes forget some of the things that I've done over the years. I mean, I'll tell you this in all truth. I have probably forgotten more about what I've done with magic than I remember sometimes. That's one of those things that, I'm doing this video and I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. I haven't thought about it in a long time. I mean, it's something that I set up years and years and years ago. But there it is. And there's an example of taking mundane activity and applying it to magical work. It doesn't involve careers. I had to put that out there. So you can take stuff like that, and you can take any mundane activity and you can tie it into your magical working. And you can create a magical working that is charged by your mundane activities. You just have to be creative about it, and you really have to think about like what you wanted to do. And if you do that mundane activity all the time, then find a way to tie it into what you're doing on a continual basis. Make it into something that feeds your long-term working. Like I said, it's amazing. It'll take care of itself for you. You won't even have to think about it, because you'll basically have this thing just continually going and going and going. It's like the Energizer Bunny, right? Your magical working is fueled by the Energizer Bunny of your mundane activities. All right, well, that's it for this video. I was in rare form tonight, I think, but I don't know. I'm just in a really happy mood here, and so I thought I would share it with you. A miracle of miracles happened today at work. I can't really talk about it, but I can say that a miracle of miracles happened today, and that's why I'm happy. And no, it wasn't like for career advancement, but it was something that nonetheless made me happy. And I like it when I'm happy. So there we go. All right, folks, you have a wonderful evening. Be happy yourselves. And remember that your mundane activities are the juice for your magical workings, if you want them to be. Not that hard to do. You just have to make the connection explicit. And then you can do once and then done rituals for the rest of your life. Then you did it, and now it takes care of what you need to take care of. All right, have a good evening. Take care. Bye-bye.